And Senator Bernie Sanders. Welcome, Senator. The president responded this morning to the protesters who were marching yesterday against him and said basically the election is over. Why didn't you vote in the election? It doesn't sound like he's listening to those voices.
Well, I have the feeling the vast majority of the people who protested did vote. As you know, Mr. Trump lost the popular vote by almost 3 million votes. But I think the point of yesterday, which was extraordinary, John, not just all over this country, in Montpelier, Vermont, where I was, we have one of the largest rallies in the history of the state. All over the world, what people were saying to Mr. Trump, women are not going backward, where they are not going to become second-class citizens. Listen to the needs of women, listen to the needs of the immigrant community, listen to the needs of workers, listen to what's going on with regard to climate change. Modify your positions. Let's work together to try to save this planet and protect the middle class.
I wonder what you made, Senator, of the president's inaugural address. A lot of people I talked to said, you know, there are things in that speech that Bernie Sanders would like. The president's message about sort of punching the establishment in the nose was something that should delight a lot of liberals, too, who are just as fed up with the institutions in Washington. What did you make of it?
Well, I found it somewhat amusing that Mr. Trump, President Trump, was punching the establishment, but right behind him, John, sitting in the VIP sections, were billionaire after billionaire after billionaire, some of the most powerful people in this country who over the last 10, 20 years have become much, much richer while the middle class has shrunk. So I find it somewhat amusing that you're attacking the establishment when the establishment is sitting right behind you and when billionaires and large corporations are funding many of your inaugural events. Now, if Mr. Trump is serious about standing up for working families, then he's not going to throw 20 million working people off of health insurance. He's not going to cut Medicare and Medicaid. In fact, to my mind, the best thing that Mr. Trump could do right now, today, is to send out a tweet and tell the American people that during the campaign, when he said over and over and over again that he would not cut Social Security, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid, tell the American people that he was not lying, that he's going to keep his word, and that they do not have to live in anxiety.
All right, Senator, I want to follow up on that question on Obamacare and those issues, but we need to take a short break right now. We'll be back in 1 minute with more from Senator Bernie Sanders. Stay with us. And we're back with Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator, you were talking about Donald Trump should reiterate that he will not meddle with Social Security and Medicare. Reince Priebus, his chief of staff, has reiterated that. Tom Price, in your questioning, I believe, said that he wouldn't. Answered your question about that. Do you not believe them, or?
Well, John, what does meddle mean? The truth is that right now, the chairman of the subcommittee on Social Security, the Republican chairman of that committee, is working on legislation that would devastate Medicare, which devastates Social Security. Paul Ryan has for years believed in privatizing Medicare and moving it to a voucher program. They're moving aggressively, Republicans are, to make major cuts in Medicaid. What Trump, meddling is not the word. The word we have to hear right now is that he will keep his campaign promise. No cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I got to tell you something. I talked to a psychologist last night who told me that some of her patients are already in increased anxiety. What happens if they lose their Medicaid? What's going to happen to them? So Mr. Trump, President Trump, can reassure the American people that he will keep by keeping his campaign promises.
I guess the question of cutting then gets everybody into a big debate about what is a cut and what isn't a cut. But let me ask you about the Affordable Care Act and the executive action the president has taken. What do you make of it in terms of the health of that bill or that program?
Well, look, it is clear that the Republicans want to repeal the Affordable Care Act. The American people are very divided on the positives and the negatives of the Affordable Care Act. But very few people, John, think that you simply end the Affordable Care Act, you do away with the protection that people have for pre-existing conditions and go back to a time when if somebody has cancer, they could not get health insurance, or you take young people off of their parents' health insurance, or you do away with the caps. People don't want to see that. And it seems to me, and to the American people, you just cannot repeal the Affordable Care Act without a replacement. Republicans have had 8 years to come up with a replacement. I have not seen that yet.
Let me ask you about some areas where you might be able to work with the president, and especially given the speech he gave in his inauguration on infrastructure. Next week, they're going to spend a couple of days, I've been told, on trade. On drug pricing, he sounds exactly like you in terms of can you do anything to reach out, and why not grab the moment?
That's right. You're absolutely right. We are going to introduce legislation that will substantially lower prescription drug costs in this country because the pharmaceutical industry has been ripping off the American people right and left. Outrageous. I would hope very much that President Trump will work with us in terms of having Medicare negotiate prices with the drug companies, in terms of allowing Americans and pharmacists to buy lower cost prescription drugs from abroad. If he wants to come on board and work with us, that would be great. In terms of infrastructure, clearly he is right when he says that our infrastructure is crumbling. We can create up to 13 million decent paying jobs by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. We're going to have legislation in that will do just that. I hope that he will work with us.
All right.
We also understand that our trade policies are a disaster. Let's see if we can work together on that as well.
All right, Senator Sanders, thanks for being with us. The test will be whether Democrats allow Democratic senators to work with them. We'll talk about that when you're on next time. Thanks for being with us, and we'll be back in a moment.